The cold, damp air hung heavily in the underground chamber. A faint light flickered from a cracked overhead panel, casting dull shadows against the jagged stone walls. In the far corner of the room, a young alien woman sat with her head lowered and her body weak from exhaustion. Her name was Liara, though no one had spoken it in many cycles. Her delicate silver blue skin was marked by the harsh metal collar around her neck and heavy chains fastened to the wall. She had been taken from her world years ago, forced into captivity by pirates who ignored every law of the galaxy. Liara was treated not as a living being, but as a creature meant to obey. She spent her days in silence, her nights in cold darkness. Why had no one ever tried to help her? Was there anyone out there who even knew she existed in this dreadful place? The outer colonies were a strange place, far removed from the order and security of the core worlds. While the Galactic Concord maintained strict laws and patrolled the trade routes near major systems, the distant reaches of space were left to govern themselves. In these remote regions, traders, wanderers, and mercenaries gathered in scattered settlements where the rules were few and survival depended on wit, courage, and sometimes pure luck. One such settlement was Relland's Outpost, a small colony on the edge of a red dwarf star system. The outpost was little more than a collection of steel structures and landing pads, with a single central market where travelers exchanged stories, sold cargo, and sought passage to the next system. The sky above the outpost glowed a constant shade of amber, while the air carried the faint scent of machine oil and scorched sand. Commander Darius Kane was no stranger to these kinds of places. He had spent years moving from one world to the next, sometimes as a soldier, other times as a hired protector for merchant ships. His ship, the Valiant Ghost, was docked at the far end of the landing field, its hull scarred from old battles, but its engines still strong. Darius himself was a man of quiet strength, known for his sharp judgment and unwavering sense of honor in a part of the galaxy where such traits were rare. That evening, Darius found himself seated in the Broken Star, a cantina popular among traders and freighter captains. The establishment was dimly lit, with tables made from salvaged ship parts and a bar stocked with drinks from every corner of the known galaxy. Conversations filled the air, ranging from trade deals to tall tales of mythical beasts and lost civilizations. Darius nursed a glass of something warm and strong, his mind lost in thought. He had planned to leave Relland's Outpost the next day, heading toward a distant cargo job that promised decent pay. However, fate had other plans. Across the room, a weathered merchant by the name of Halric Jorn leaned close to a group of listeners. His voice, though rough from years of shouting over ship engines, carried a certain weight that made people pay attention. Darius, though not one to eavesdrop, could not help but notice the sudden hush that settled over the nearby tables as Halric spoke. "I have seen something," Halric began, his tone low and cautious. Something the Concord would deny if you asked them about it. "There's a place, deep within the Voric system. It is an old ore refinery, long abandoned by its original owners. Now it serves a darker purpose." The mention of Voric caught Darius's attention. He had heard of the system, though he had never set foot there. It was said to be lawless, a haven for smugglers and those who wished to avoid the eyes of the Galactic Council. Halric continued, his eyes scanning the room as though wary of being overheard. "They keep captives there," he said grimly. "Prisoners from raided ships, laborers who owe debts, and worse. But among them is one who is not like the others. A girl, they say. Not human, but something else. Silver skin that glimmers in the dark, and eyes that burn like violet fire. They say she has been there for cycles, forgotten by all but the slavers who profit from her pain." A few listeners laughed nervously, dismissing the tale as a traveler's fantasy, but Darius did not. There was something in Halric's voice, a quiet certainty that set his instincts on edge. He leaned back in his chair, weighing the information. Was it just a drunken story meant to earn free drinks? Or was there truth buried beneath the words? In places like Relland's Outpost, rumors often held a thread of reality. Darius had seen too many strange things in his years as a soldier to quickly dismiss such claims. Curiosity pulled at him. What if the girl truly existed? What if no one had come for her because no one knew she was there? He could not imagine the kind of courage it would take for someone to survive such captivity alone, and the thought unsettled him. Darius finished his drink, his decision made. He would not leave the next day as planned. Instead, he would chart a course for Vorik 7 and see for himself if the whispers carried any truth. If there was a life to save, he would not turn away. He left the broken star without another word, the steady hum of distant engines and the dim glow of the amber sky accompanying him into the night. The journey to Vorik 7 was not an easy one. The system lay far beyond the well-traveled star routes of the Galactic Concord, in a region of space marked by unstable wormholes, scattered asteroid fields, and pirate-controlled sectors. Only the most determined or the most desperate dared to venture into such lawless territory. Commander Darius Kane was neither desperate nor reckless. He was a man guided by instinct, sharpened by years of battle and experience. When he set a course for Vorik 7, it was not on a foolish whim, but with the certainty of a soldier who understood the weight of his choices. The valiant Ghost, his ship, hummed softly as it sailed through the darkness between stars. Its engines were old but reliable, maintained by Darius's careful hands. He spent the quiet hours checking weapon systems, reinforcing shields, and scanning for any unusual activity in the surrounding space. Passing through an uncharted nebula, the ship's sensors flickered for a moment, picking up the faint signal of a distress beacon. Darius considered investigating, but quickly realized it was a trap. Pirates often used false signals to lure ships into ambushes. He altered his course, his eyes scanning the void with practiced caution. As the ship neared Vorik 7, the system's red dwarf sun cast a dull, reddish glow over its planets. Vorik 7 itself appeared as a rocky, uneven world with thick cloud cover and a constant storm that churned endlessly across its atmosphere. The planet had been rich in minerals once, home to several mining colonies. However, after the old wars, the corporations abandoned it, leaving behind rusting facilities and dark secrets. Darius stared at the image of the planet on his navigation screen. He wondered what kind of lives had been lived there before it became a refuge for criminals. What stories had been lost among its mountains and caverns? And what kind of place would a forgotten prisoner call home? The ship's sensors detected several small craft in orbit, most likely pirate patrol vessels or old freighters modified for illegal trade. Darius knew better than to announce his presence. He plotted a stealth approach, guiding the valiant Ghost through the planet's dense upper atmosphere. The ship trembled as it pierced the storm layer, lightning illuminating the dark clouds in bursts of white-blue light. The turbulence shook the vessel, but Darius kept his grip steady on the controls. This was familiar to him, a test of skill and nerve. A sudden gust of plasma-charged wind pushed the ship off course, forcing Darius to make rapid adjustments. He narrowly avoided a jagged mountain peak that emerged from the mist like a ghostly claw. Once through the worst of the storm, Darius located a remote plateau miles from the main pirate stronghold. It was a flat, rocky ledge overlooking a deep canyon, shielded from casual sensors by natural rock formations. He guided the ship down with precision, the landing struts touching the uneven ground with a soft thud. As he powered down the engines, Darius scanned the area. The landscape was barren and hostile, with jagged cliffs and endless stretches of dust. The air carried a metallic scent, hinting at long-forgotten machinery buried beneath the ground. Leaving the ship, Darius stepped into the heavy suit of combat armor he kept ready for dangerous assignments. The suit's systems came online with a soft hum, and the visor's display highlighted the environment, marking potential threats and paths. Darius took a pulse rifle from the weapons locker and secured a pack of tools and supplies. He knew that reaching the pirate compound would not be as simple as walking through an open gate. The facility was built into a cliffside, with narrow tunnels and old ore lifts leading down to its heart. The stolen map from Rellen's outpost showed a smuggler's passage near the eastern ridge, a maintenance tunnel once used by miners, but long abandoned. It was his best chance to enter undetected. As he made his way toward the ridge, Darius wondered what kind of defenses the pirates had set up. Would they still use the same passages the miners had built decades ago? Or had they sealed them, aware that someone might try to use the forgotten routes? At one point, Darius paused, feeling the faint tremor beneath his feet. A distant rumble echoed through the ground, perhaps machinery or something far less predictable. He checked his scanner, which detected faint heat signatures, then moved forward with careful steps. The climb down the canyon wall was treacherous. Loose rocks threatened to give way beneath his boots. The only light came from the occasional flicker of lightning above. Darius secured a rope line, descending inch by inch until he reached the narrow ledge leading to the maintenance tunnel. He found the entrance half buried in debris. Using a portable plasma cutter, he cleared the way and stepped inside. The darkness swallowed him, but the visor's night vision revealed rusted pipes and walls marked by old mining symbols. Darius paused at every intersection, his senses alert for any sign of movement. The silence was thick and unnatural, broken only by the occasional drip of water or the groan of aging metal. What kind of life had been lived in these tunnels? Darius felt the ghosts of the past in every corner, the memories of workers who once struggled in these corridors. Finally, he reached the final stretch of the passage. According to his map, a lift ahead would take him deep into the heart of the pirate compound. He knew there would be no turning back after this. Yet, he felt a steady resolve. Somewhere beyond those walls, someone waited, a life worth saving, and Darius Kane would not leave without her. The tunnel was narrow, cold, and filled with the scent of rust and damp stone. Commander Darius Kane moved through it with steady, careful steps. His combat armor made no unnecessary noise, its systems working silently in the background. The dim green glow of his visor's night vision cut through the pitch-black surroundings, revealing walls streaked with old mineral deposits and patches of corrosion. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead, winding through the depths of Vorik 7's mountains. Though it had once been a miner's passage, now it served a different, darker purpose. The pirates who ruled this world had claimed the abandoned refinery, repurposing its lower levels into holding cells and secret vaults. As Darius advanced, the old structure groaned under its own weight. Pipes overhead trembled, and dust fell from the ceiling with every distant boom of thunder. The storm outside had grown fiercer, sending tremors through the mountain. Yet Darius pressed on, every step bringing him closer to his objective. The map he had taken from Rellen's outpost marked several junctions along the route. At the third intersection, Darius paused. His visor scanner picked up faint heat signatures up ahead, too small to be a person, but moving. His hand tightened on the grip of his pulse rifle. A pair of small, rodent-like creatures scurried across the tunnel floor, vanishing into a crack in the wall. Darius exhaled slowly, his nerves steady. Even so, it reminded him that this place was still alive in its own way, hiding secrets and dangers in its shadows. What kind of horrors had been carried through these tunnels? How many lives had vanished in the darkness of Vorik 7's depths? The thought lingered in Darius's mind as he continued forward, his determination unwavering. After several more turns, he reached a heavy rusted door, half blocked by a collapsed support beam. The map showed it as the entrance to the old processing level, now believed to be one of the main chambers used by the pirates for their illicit dealings. Using a portable plasma cutter, Darius sliced through the remains of the door's locking mechanism. Sparks danced through the air as the metal gave way, and with a firm push, he forced the door open just enough to slip through. On the other side, the atmosphere changed. The air was heavier here, thick with the scent of oil, smoke, and something far more unpleasant. Faint light leaked from flickering overhead panels, illuminating narrow corridors lined with rusted pipes and ancient machinery. Darius crouched low, moving from cover to cover. He knew the pirates would have patrols in this area. Every corner was a risk, Every door might conceal an enemy. A distant voice echoed through the passage ahead. Two guards spoke in a language Darius did not recognize, their harsh tones carrying a mixture of boredom and arrogance. From their voices, it was clear they did not expect any intruders here. Darius positioned himself against the wall, waiting for the perfect moment. As the guards passed, he struck swiftly, disabling them both with the precision of a trained soldier. They dropped without a sound, and he carefully dragged them out of sight. A part of him wondered how many people these men had hurt, how many lives had suffered because of their greed. It only strengthened his resolve. Someone out there needed his help, and he would see this through. Moving deeper, Darius reached an old control room overlooking the lower levels. The glass was cracked, but it offered a view of the dimly lit chambers below. His visor's enhanced optics allowed him to scan the space. There were cells, dozens of them. Most held prisoners in pitiful conditions. Thin figures huddled in corners, eyes reflecting terror and despair. Some were human, others alien species Darius had rarely seen. And then, in the furthest cell, something caught his attention. A figure barely visible in the shadows. Unlike the others, her skin shimmered with a faint silver-blue hue. Long hair clung to her face, and though she appeared weak, there was a spark in her posture that spoke of defiance. Darius's heart quickened. It had to be her. Who was she? What kind of strength did it take to survive in a place like this for so long? Darius felt the weight of her suffering, and the urgency of his mission doubled. He charted a route through the corridors, bypassing several guards and disabling security panels along the way. Every step was a calculated risk. One wrong move could cost him his life, but he moved with the focus of a man who had survived far worse. At last, he reached a row of cells. The old metal doors were secured by electronic locks, ancient systems connected to a central terminal. Darius hacked the control panel with a device from his kit, disabling the alarm systems. The moments stretched endlessly as he opened the final cell. The woman inside flinched at the light, her eyes adjusting as she looked up. Violet fire seemed to burn in them for a brief instant. For a second, neither spoke. Then Darius stepped inside, kneeling before her. "I am here to help you," he said softly. She looked at him with a mixture of fear, disbelief, and a flicker of hope. And in that moment, Commander Darius Kane knew that whatever it took, he would get her out of this place alive. For a long, heavy moment, the small, dimly lit cell remained silent. The only sound was the steady, labored breathing of the woman, who lay curled on the cold floor. The soft hum of aged machinery echoed in the distance, and faint droplets of water dripped steadily from a cracked pipe somewhere nearby. Commander Darius Kane remained still, crouched just inside the doorway, his pulse rifle lowered and his gloved hand extended in a peaceful gesture. He knew better than to startle someone who had suffered such horrors. His heart ached at the sight before him, a frail, silver-blue figure, bruised and battered, but somehow still alive. She was so thin it seemed a miracle that she still breathed. Her violet eyes, weary and dull from long years of captivity, slowly met his. Darius felt the depth of her pain in that single glance, a silent story of endless suffering and lost hope. How had she survived this long? What strength did it take for a soul to endure so many cycles in a place like this and still cling to life? Darius spoke softly, his voice gentle and steady, as if trying not to frighten a wounded animal. "My name is Darius. You are safe now. I have come to help you," he said. She flinched at his words, as though unused to kindness. Yet she did not look away. Slowly, her gaze drifted to the broken lock panel by the door, and then back to the stranger kneeling before her. Darius reached into a pouch on his belt and produced a small container of water. He placed it gently on the floor between them and stepped back. "It is clean. You can have it," he assured her. Tentatively, with trembling hands, the woman reached for the container. She drank greedily, the water spilling down her chin, her body starved for even the simplest comfort. Darius waited, giving her time, But time was a luxury they did not have. The alarm systems would not stay offline forever. He could already hear the distant clatter of booted feet in the corridor outside. Sooner or later, the pirates would realize something was wrong. Darius moved to the chain that bound her ankles and used a plasma cutter to break the links. The metal hissed as it split apart. He then did the same for the heavy collar around her neck, careful not to hurt her. As the final shackle fell to the floor, she let out a ragged, shuddering breath, a sound that was part relief, part disbelief. "Can you stand?" he asked gently. She tried, her legs trembling beneath her. She wavered and nearly collapsed, but Darius caught her, supporting her with one arm. "It is all right. I will carry you," he promised. Without hesitation, he lifted her into his arms. She was light as a feather, and he could feel every bone beneath her skin. Yet she clung to him, her face buried against his shoulder, as though afraid he might vanish. Darius stepped out into the corridor, pulse rifle raised. The first two guards appeared around the corner, their weapons drawn, but they had no time to react. Darius fired twice, each shot precise and silent. The guards fell where they stood. The sounds of movement grew louder behind them. More guards would come, and soon. Darius adjusted the woman's weight in his arms and quickened his pace, moving through the winding passages he had memorized from the stolen map. As he ran, Darius wondered what would become of her after this. Where would she go? Would she ever feel safe in a galaxy that had shown her such cruelty? And could a single act of rescue undo years of pain? He reached a lift shaft, long abandoned, its maintenance access ladder intact. With one arm, Darius secured her to his chest with a harness from his gear pack, then began the climb. The ascent was brutal, every step a battle against gravity and exhaustion, but he did not slow. The storm above roared, lightning flashing through the gaps in the lift tunnel. At the top, Darius emerged into an open loading bay. The Valiant Ghost was visible through the rain, its engines primed and ready. The ship's sensors had detected the breach and initiated auto-preparation procedures. A group of guards waited by the platform, alerted by the internal alarms. Darius fired as he ran, bolts of energy cutting through the rain-soaked night. The woman clung to him, her body trembling with fear, but her grip firm. He reached the ship's ramp just as another volley of blaster fire scorched the ground behind them. The ramp lifted, sealing them inside. Darius carried her straight to the med bay, ignoring the warnings flashing on the ship's console about pursuing craft. He activated the med bay's shield and placed her gently on the padded medical table. "You are safe now," he said again. She opened her eyes, exhaustion and disbelief mingling in her expression. Her lips moved, forming a word too soft to hear at first. "Liara," she whispered. It was the first time she had spoken her name in years. The sound of it seemed to awaken something inside her, a small ember of identity rekindled. Darius smiled, a rare, genuine expression. "Liara," he repeated, "you are free." Outside, the ship's engines roared as the Valiant Ghost blasted off into the stormy sky, leaving the nightmare of Vorik 7 behind. And though their journey was only beginning, for the first time in countless cycles, hope had found a way back into Liara's heart. The engines of the Valiant Ghost roared against the fury of Vorik 7's stormy skies. Lightning danced through thick clouds, illuminating the battered landscape below in brief, violent flashes. Inside the cockpit, Commander Darius Kane worked quickly, his hands moving across the control panels as the ship rose through the atmosphere. Alarms blared from the console, warning of approaching vessels. Several pirate ships had launched from the compound's hangars, their pursuit swift and merciless. Darius cursed under his breath. They had precious little time before the enemy craft would intercept them. He diverted more power to the shields and activated a sensor jamming system, clouding their signal in the chaos of the storm. In the med bay, Liara lay on a padded table, her silver-blue skin still bruised, but visibly calmer now that the cruel chains were gone. The ship's automatic medical systems scanned her condition and began administering gentle, stabilizing treatments. A soft hum filled the room as she opened her eyes and looked around. For the first time in countless cycles, she was no longer surrounded by cold stone walls or the sharp clang of metal doors. The gentle lights of the ship's med bay and the warmth of clean linens wrapped around her felt strange, almost unreal. Where was she now? Was this another cruel trick, or had someone truly saved her from that nightmare? The name Darius surfaced in her memory, a voice that had called to her in the darkness. In the cockpit, the sensors picked up the pirate vessels drawing closer. Darius tightened his grip on the control stick. With a sudden burst of power, the valiant ghost shot upward, breaking through the final layers of storm cloud into open space. The planet's crimson surface fell away behind them, replaced by the endless canvas of stars. The pirate ships gave chase, firing bursts of plasma toward them. The valiant ghost's shields flared with each impact. Darius locked onto an unstable asteroid field near the system's edge. It was dangerous, but it offered the only chance to lose their pursuers. With a swift adjustment of the controls, he dove the ship toward the dense cluster of rocks. Inside the med bay, Liara felt the ship's sudden movements. Despite her weakness, a strange calm settled over her. For the first time in cycles, her heart held a fragile thread of hope. Darius guided the ship through the tumbling debris, weaving between giant stone fragments and ancient mining wreckage. The pirate vessels hesitated, knowing one wrong move could tear their ships apart. One by one, they fell back, unwilling to risk further pursuit. The moment stretched painfully, then silence. The scanners showed no signs of pursuit. The valiant ghost emerged from the asteroid field into open space, the stars shining brilliantly ahead. In the med bay, Darius appeared at Liara's side, offering a small, genuine smile. "You are safe now," he said. She looked up at him, her voice a fragile whisper. "Thank you." The stars outside the observation deck stretched endlessly in every direction, countless points of light scattered across the velvet darkness of space. From this vantage, the galaxy seemed calm, far removed from the cruelty and chaos of Vorex 7. Liara stood at the wide viewport, her fragile frame wrapped in a clean, soft tunic. Though her skin still bore the faint traces of old wounds, her eyes now held a quiet strength. She watched the stars in silent awe, her thoughts a mixture of wonder and disbelief. For so long, she had known only darkness and confinement. The endless sky beyond the glass felt like an entirely different universe. What worlds waited out there? What new names, voices, and places might fill her days now? She had almost forgotten the sound of her own name until Darius Kane had spoken it. It seemed strange to imagine a future after everything she had endured, but here she stood, alive and free. Darius entered the room quietly, carrying 2 cups of warm tea from the galley. The rich, calming scent drifted through the air as he approached. He offered one to Liara without a word, and she accepted it with a small, grateful nod. They stood together in companionable silence for a time, the hum of the ship's engines a steady background presence. "You are healing well," Darius said at last, his voice gentle. Liara looked up at him, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. "I feel different," she admitted softly. "It is strange. I spent so long thinking no one would ever come for me." "No one should ever be left behind," Darius replied, a firm conviction in his tone. "Not while there is someone willing to fight for them." Over the following days, Liara grew stronger. She explored the ship at her own pace, moving carefully through the corridors and gradually reclaiming her sense of independence. Darius gave her space but remained nearby, offering quiet support whenever needed. He told her stories of the places he had seen, crystalline cities floating on water worlds, ancient ruins hidden in asteroid fields, and distant colonies where sunsets painted the sky in 5 colors. Liara listened with a childlike fascination, realizing how much of the galaxy she had never known. Would she one day visit those places? Could she become more than a survivor, perhaps even a traveler, a friend, or a protector to others in need? One evening, Seated across from one another in the ship's small common room, Darius asked gently, "Where would you like to go next?" Liara paused, the question strange and unfamiliar. She had never been allowed to choose her own path before. "Somewhere I can see the sky," she replied with a small smile. Darius returned the smile, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not experienced in years. "Then that is where we will go," he promised. And so, beneath the eternal canvas of stars, a new chapter of their lives quietly began. One night, standing on the observation deck, Liara spoke. "Thank you for saving me." Darius smiled. "You were never meant to live in chains, Liara. The stars belong to you too." They watched the endless sea of stars together, knowing that somewhere out there, others might still be waiting for rescue. And perhaps, they would be the ones to bring them hope.